my volume up, and I'm turning y'all's volume right about there up. Okay. Greetings and salutations, travelers. Welcome back to the Planar Crossroads, and welcome back to our discussion about Around the Hearth. So, our discussion called Around the Hearth, not about Around the Hearth. Back with us, today we have Tommy from Black Dragon Gaming, Kane from the Planar Crossroads, and Slash, kind of Black Dragon Gaming. And
I'm all over.
It's all over
the line
place.
is blurred.
Yeah. And we have...
I'm the true interplanar traveler, really.
Yes. And Levi.
He plays at my house now. He's a little goblin. I hope he remembered his harmonica, or it was mad.
Oh, Levi. Yeah, Levi is also an interplanar traveler.
Yes, he bounces back and forth too. He's here with us on this, and then he's over with Tommy on a few things, like on the Discord and stuff like that. I hate to see him do stuff, so there we go. All right. First off,
Oh,
Yes! Yes! Ha ha!
all right. Okay.
Best paladin bard you ever heard.
Well, diggity dog do that. That sounds good. Okay. Getting to our announcements, or at least our disclaimer. This is an adult podcast that sometimes features adults, that sometimes use adult language, so you have been warned.
Thanks, Dad!
Perfect. Now I can go get another beer because I committed to the bit too hard and I drank it all.
Oh, all right. He's gonna go get a beer.
Classic Kane.
As far as announcements go, for the announcements, we don't have a lot going on. We still have the Patreons for both Black Dragon Gaming and the Planar Crossroads. You can support either one of us. You can just head on over that way, look up Black Dragon Gaming, looking for that logo, or the Planar Crossroads. We're the only Planar Crossroads on there that I've ever seen, so should
You
be
guys
able to
do have
find
a
us.
very unique name compared to one of many Black Dragon Gamings. We've clawed our way to the top, but that doesn't mean there's a lot of Minecraft channels that also are called Black Dragon Gaming.
Which is kind of odd for me. I mean, there's like a Black Dragon Gaming, Minecraft, no. But anyway, there is... you miss it. You're just coming in on the last part, man. You're just...
Starting a BDG Minecraft server?
No. We're talking about all the channels, all the YouTube channels that exist, and etc. named like Black Dragon X. And there's definitely, when I first started, the most popular YouTube channel at like 150 subscribers or something was Black Dragon Gaming, a Minecraft game that was like uploaded to YouTube, and I imagine streamed somewhere. I've definitely had several channels comment on my videos with the same name, just "Hi, how you doing? Hey, what's up? This is awkward now. Okay. I'll go that way. Goodbye."
If you could remember that I'm on this particular channel and I'm not that channel, that'd be great. Okay.
We don't play Minecraft here, please.
We don't. 2010 is over.
Yeah.
Now we play Stardew Valley, which is the same thing but with romances.
Yeah.
Well, Stardew Valley is basically Harvest Moon but upgraded. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's not what we're talking about. We're doing announcements. The Planar Crossroads, we have our Patreons. We're not doing a giveaway for the $10 tier because there's no one in the $10 tier of the patrons in the Planar Crossroads at the moment. So if you want to get in on that, you would basically be the only one there, and you would get what we would do a giveaway this month. So if you want that, you'd be practically guaranteed.
What are we giving away this month?
It depends if somebody signs up.
You can't be like that because I'll do it and then you're just gonna have to ship it here.
Just give
I
Kane
can
all
totally
your
do it.
loans.
Well, see, if I tell you, then it wouldn't be as much fun. It'd be like a surprise, you know? Because then I'd have to pick one to commit to something right on the spot. And I'm not going to do that. So, but we will do something if someone pops into that tier. For other announcements, we are still working on the details of the 400 one-shot. We are making our way towards 500 almost. We're not going to necessarily do anything specific at 500, but we may do like an announcement or something fun, or do a giveaway at 500, because it is technically almost 1,000. It's like half of 1,000, which is nothing for Black Dragon Gaming, but for us, I mean, it's something. So anyway,
You'll get there. I have faith.
That's cray-cray.
Stay the course.
And I believe that's all we need to discuss right now before we actually get into what we're talking about today, which is verisimilitude in world building. So, before we jump into this and try and get everybody we want to get everybody on the same page, which means we need to define verisimilitude in case some people don't get that word. It is a noun in some ways, and it says the appearance or semblance of truth, likelihood, probability. Example, the play lacked verisimilitude. Secondary definition of something, as an assertion, having merely the appearance of truth. So, that is what verisimilitude is, or is defined as. And as far as world building, it basically pertains to making your world believable.
It can also be more simply defined as possessing the quality of realness, or feeling real.
Right. So, for us in our games, this is not necessarily, we may go into it in the little after part of the discussion, but we're not talking about necessarily making the world, but more like making it believable as you're creating it for your players. And some worlds come about without any kind of extra thought as far as how does this work or what happens. Some worlds are just born because you guys wanted to sit down and play a game. And then some worlds are made like the way I make worlds, and I'm like, it's all in my head, and I've already got a lot of the stuff figured out. And then there's other parts where you're playing something that's similar to what BDG does with its playthroughs of the different modules available for 2nd edition. So it's playing through those. You still need verisimilitude with the interactions that person is having inside that module. And the level that you need, I think everybody can agree, is going to be different based upon your play group. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, the requirement for like minutia and verisimilitude and engagement is going to be different with a group that's playing in a really like beer and pretzels game where you show up, you have a good time, you throw dice at things, and you kill monsters, as opposed to a game or with a group that's more heavily invested in their character development and the story. And I know some people who treat tabletop gaming like a collaborative writing experience more so than a dice game, which is cool, but like this, it's a specific type of game.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, or you could base all of your games off N64 titles.
I do. I absolutely. My nostalgia. We are currently playing Aiden Chronicles: The Reverse Mage. Basically, all of the Resident Evils jammed together, and we were playing Ogre Battles. Speaking of that, I had to look up a token for it was like Crazy Old Man or something. I'm gonna put that screen cap, not to interrupt right now. I'm gonna put it in the NFBC's Discord. Just real quick thing, because the first image is good.
I'm assuming that's the slide that has your keyboard on it.
Yes. The other desk is right there.
Oh, I
am a lazy boy.
Oh, buddy.
We just got it in the house.
Buddy.
In the office. IKEA is hard.
No, I just wanted to say every time I hear it in a recording, there's a couple seconds where I'm like, what the fuck was that?
That's my terrible desk, which actually we went to Lowe's on Sunday for. We couldn't buy the big axe because I guess I'm not worth it, but we did buy a hatchet, and we intend to turn this desk into firewood. I am excited.
What did you do?
Don't you live in an apartment? Where are you going to burn it?
It's got a fireplace.
Oh.
See, so that just means everybody needs to comment on this video to be like, Tommy, need a video with epic battle music of you taking out your nemesis, the desk.
Yeah, we thought about streaming it. Just shout blood for the blood out of the top of my voice and bring the axe down. The axe is dull and does nothing to the desk. I look stupid. Continue.
I also want you to take like a 30-minute loop recording of you burning it so that we can use it as background for an Around the Hearth.
Nice. Like my former in-laws used to do at Christmas. They wouldn't put a fire up. They just get on Netflix and like stream a fire.
Yeah, we
What
do that.
even is that?
We do that a lot here because it's difficult to have a campfire when you have to shovel it out.
Fair.
We've definitely
Sorry.
thought about it a couple times. It would have been good fun.
But this does none of this discussion leads towards verisimilitude in world building. So
Sure, it does. If you want to have a fire real bad with your friends, but the
The
campfire is buried in the backyard, you and the barbarian gotta get shovels and dig it out. That's verisimilitude as shit.
There it
That
is.
sounds
It's
like
a screenshot of my entire monitors. It's in the IOPC Discord, but it's the first image to old Insane Man RPG art that's relevant to Cain and Adam.
I gotta find my Discord now.
It's in the IOPC Discord.
All right.
We want to talk about that idea.
I know, right?
all right,
This is the art I used for Francis.
Yep.
all right.
Anyway, verisimilitude. We're friends. We hang out as friends. This is the friend
Lord.
part.
Oh,
no.
already.
Beep,
But-
beep, beep, beep.
So, you guys are trying to focus in on verisimilitude. What were you going to say? Something, Levi?
I mean, if we want to connect that back in, I think getting to that level of details and whatnot is often not fun for people in a campaign. Like, all that real-world stuff. Like, it wasn't worth it to us to get the axe. We had to shovel out the fireplace. When looking at, like, a tier of game you want to go to, some people actually really do like that tier of survivalist level, you have to deal with all this stuff, but I think in most games that level isn't important.
I love it so much. Hashtag Green Faith. I play all the Rangers. But most of the people I play with also, they just like the crap out of that because it's like it's bookkeeping.
Yeah, and then like that swings back to what I was saying before. Like the degree of buy-in necessary for the game is going to be different from group to group, and it is also sort of part of the social contract where you and everyone else agree like this is the kind of game I'm going to run, and this is the kind of game you want. Let's reconcile those two ideas.
Session 0 is very important.
Yeah, so we can
Because the world can't be realistic unless you, the GM, and like the squad that's coming to your house or your Discord server, blase every week. Like, it's a group project. One side can commit 100, but if the other side isn't also, it's just gonna fall flat. That's like my experience with gaming has taught me that, especially like as a YouTuber. Because prior to this, we just kind of like, and the IOPC guys all know this, we were competitive Magic players who then started playing Pathfinder, and we liked to min-max at each other very loud. And that's like why I was joining Runelords in the first place.
some rules about immediate actions,
Go away!
other
Go
fees,
freeze! Lose
how
more of your
many
ears!
items work.
Go lose your ears in the snow! Canada! But
It's like insult that he hurls at you now. Canada.
in the groups where where the players are super invested, I find to make my world believable, I just kind of have to like do this. Like, for example, I'm running a game set in Tian Sha right now, where right now it's 2 players, and Onru and Tarask together, they have really good roleplay as just a 2-person party that I don't need to do anything. I just like when they are talking, I mute my mic for 30 minutes and it builds through them because they're basically like the Far East Jedi Knights, more or less. And they build the world with their actions and their roleplay, and I just have to like keep the wheel turning, right? As a GM, I feel like a lot of times to make your world believable, that's all you have to do is just take what they give, turn, take what they give, turn, and just repeat.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and like that approach definitely, I imagine, works like a lot of the time, especially if your players really engaged, not only with the game but with each other.
For sure. Like, you know what's not believable? It's not believable on paper. Like right now, for an avian and a mammal to have sex and make offspring. But Adam sold it in Runelords, and it made sense, and it was like that verisimilitude. Why Asian shot sex magic? But like,
Yeah.
I told you.
you did.
Tian Sha sex magic, yeah. One of the things that will probably never happen again in one of our games.
Hey, you never know.
That is far and away the first time that like a player in any game I've been a part of has attempted to initiate a romance sequence with another player.
All
Fair.
of mine have been unsolicited, to tell you the truth, and they've been like, it's always been kind of weird because, as everyone here knows, I was married to the person who was like in the group, and oftentimes NPCs would be attracted to me, and like it's like not a solicited. It's just this person's attracted. Oh, okay. Well, my character's terrible, and you did a bad thing, and here we go, I guess. But that also will sell the world because it's a high adrenaline situation when you are fighting things and almost dying alongside each other, and like humanoids react, right? Mm. Which is it's a credit to Emmy and the way Emmy played herself, and well and truly also Canis Magpie.
But yeah, I was very surprised and flattered when I got compliments on that character from like people I had not met before.
Yeah, you played the best Magpie, best bird. Yeah.
There was much verisimilitude with Magpie.
Ha! I got a new patron. Sorry.
All right, so as Tommy rubs that in our face, let's try and break this down.
Let's money.
I'm sorry. It was just a dollar.
Let's go ahead and try and break the discussion down a bit more, and we'll discuss first module, then using a preset world like Golarion, but then homebrewing that up, and then going full on homebrew. So in modules, I don't have as much experience as Tommy probably does because he's been doing stuff with the
Doomsday Dawn. Now I feel the opposite is true because I have several modules that people are building characters for like 3 or 4 shots at best, whereas you had one of the biggest, longest, most iconic Pathfinder adventure paths that we got like halfway through in Rise of the Rune Lords. It's, I believe, and I learned this from you, frankly, the first rule of running an adventure path is like, it's your adventure path. It's your story. It's the player's story. But here's the, like, these are the events that will occur and react accordingly. That kind of thing.
So that's something you've carried over into Doomsday Dawn and things like that?
As much as one can in a game where, like, it's a playtest, and it's a playtest that's testing very specific, like, ABCDE, like, my players, don't watch this. Well, we're very behind. Paizo's playtest schedule is, like, lightning, but the next one is basically you're in the ruins of a temple in the world wound, and you're going to see how long 4 characters with limited resources can survive versus XYZ demons. And then before that, there was a clock, and you're exploring the Stolen Lands. So it's really hard to make that one like your own world. I will say, when we did a fair at Somberfell Hall, I'm still a little mad that my players, who I had a neutral evil sorceress, a chaotic neutral rogue, and a neutral rogue who snuck up on the mansion that they're supposed to like meet people and protect, didn't just break into the damn thing. Because that's verisimilitude. What one GM might say is you've taken a left turn from the story. I argue is you've made it your story. Another like great example of this is when Rune Lords kicked off at IOPC. You had 2 Verisians and 3 people from the other side of the planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we kicked that off, and then like we had to explain a bunch of reasons as to like why we're so far from home. Mm-hmm. I think a big part of verisimilitude in any storytelling is having reasons for why things happen, regardless of what those reasons are, and B, having real. Sometimes people complain about like, oh, I did a bad thing and the guards showed up and now I'm in jail. It's like, well, why didn't you do a bad thing and get caught then?
Why did you expect there would be no circumstances? No like repercussions for stealing a thing?
Like, and there has to be like the world has to function like a world, not like a video game where you crouch and become invisible, a la Skyrim.
Unless you're playing, unless you're playing a Shadow Dancer.
That's magic.
Or like
I was making a specific inference, and you didn't have to go and shit all over me like that.
And a second edition individual that has taken whatever that got legendary skill sneak or whatever it is.
Legendary pickpocket.
Legendary whatever it is.
I feel like the better analogy for that in Skyrim is like when you mass murder a town and then serve your time, and then no one cares after.
Oh yeah,
Right.
I mean,
You're
here.
still the noble hero, but all of Whiterun is dead who could die.
if you
With the children.
yeah, if you want verisimilitude, don't go massacring an entire town because you'll get a reputation, and then heroes will come to kill you. Heroes
Now,
that are
unless it's an
probably
evil
above
game.
your level. Well, even
I
if
mean,
it's
you could. It's not don't go massacring. It's just accept that there are consequences
yeah,
for massacring a town.
just
Sin
accept.
Volca's original incarnation was chaotic evil, and he definitely did massacre a town at one point. Were there
Yeah.
consequences? Yes, but that's part of the verisimilitude. It wasn't like the murder hobo extravaganza. It was prepare a sacrifice. We need victims.
No,
that
that's
was the good old
the
days.
perfect thing. I think like a good way to expound upon that would be to give an example, and that's perfect. So like, what was the consequence for massacring a town for a sacrifice to a demon?
It's a sacrifice to Joe plays real fast and loose with his alignments and his deities, and he himself has a very strong Slavic ancestry, and that's why Sin Volca, who at the time no name, took the name Sin Volca, literally Russian for son of the wolf. And they were sacrificed to, I don't remember who, the goddess Slavic. I couldn't speak the language, so I didn't get all the information. We just got gold and a share of the loot. But the consequence being, like, it was played on Galarian, but like there was an island over here where like this particular tribe was from, and like we have to leave and cannot come back, basically. And like Joe also another really good way to get verisimilitude in your settings is to mess with the level of magic. Joe always has a faction of people. They are usually Cardassian, fair warning, Kane, that like if you have one too many magic items, you'll die in your sleep. Is that bad? I mean, the magic item needed to survival argument that's a whole other Around the Hearth.
Mm-hmm.
But it's verisimilitude because the meta informs the world. Though they might not necessarily say, oh, I need these 6 items to survive. Most people will probably know what they are and what they do. At least like everyone who's not like Johnny 2x4 peasant. I didn't mean to go Ed and Eddie with that, but you get the idea.
Well,
It's
hey,
things like
Johnny's kind of scary when someone starts messing with Plank. I'm just throwing that
What's
out
that,
there.
Black? Kill them.
Yeah. Oh, Plank, you're so funny. Oh, no, what would it be? It'd be, oh, Plank, you rapscallion. That's what he would do. But so the advice for having verisimilitude within a module, it seems to be a consensus to say make that module your own. Make it to where it's believable for your players by having your players have consequences that aren't necessarily written out into into the module itself, which from the way I run modules, you guys can see how I ran Rise of the Rune Lords, which was nothing but modules, and that falls more into what I would call using a preset setting without, and just saying this happens in that setting, and whatever you do in this setting is going to be warning by its rules, instead of running a specific module, because I believe, in my opinion, that's what modules turn into anyway. They turn into something that is running within the setting that is there, but is not specifically, hey, you can't do that because the module says you can't. People just do it anyway. There's another YouTube channel, Seth Skorkowski, does some good stuff about. He does reviews on modules, and then he talks about what's good about the module, what's not, and what to take from it. And I think that's a good way to go if you want to get some verisimilitude in your own. So, plug for that if you guys want to do that. So,
What is that? Well, I mean, we'll put it in the description too. But what's the name of the channel?
Yeah, I'm familiar as well.
all right, hold on. Sheesh, you guys don't watch anything.
No, the most
I do not.
popular YouTube channel, because I caught him when he had like 20 subscribers, is probably Esper the Bard.
No, it's not that.
I watch you
All
guys
right,
and I listen to Wheel and Woe.
this is.
Those guys are fun. And
Yeah,
very good quality.
awesome. I still haven't gotten onto their Twitter or their email to ask them questions, but I want to know more about what their setup's like. And
I do too, I really do.
Let me
They live in
see.
Washington, so
I'm
That's
looking
not
it
far
up
from
for
you.
everyone.
that's pretty close. We can go to a convention together.
yeah.
I don't know how to spell his name.
And the We on the Wall crew just all hanging out. I don't know them. That would be weird if I just showed up at a convention and was like, "Hey, we're friends now. Let's get waffles."
I'm sure they'd be totally fine knowing them. I also really want to ask them if they name their podcast after the Battle of Fort Rannoch. I really do.
I really want to ask them to stop drinking LaCroix.
All right. So for those curious, this is the name of it. It is Seth Skorkowski is the name. Oop, there we go. And that's just SETH, and then Skorkowski is SKORKOWSKY. Seth Skorkowski, and he has 27,000 subscribers. So I don't know what you got. What search engines you guys are using? Stop, Kane. Yeah, I know what you're doing, Kane.
You know what, Adam? Markiplier has 43 million subscribers, and I didn't know about him until like whenever the fuck. So
I didn't know about him until my current girlfriend.
Yeah, there you go. See, 43 million subscribers.
About who? I missed what you said.
Like the second most popular YouTuber after PewDiePie.
You guys don't spend enough time for your problem, Kane.
Spend enough time mindlessly searching through YouTube.
No, your problem is you spend too much time mindlessly searching because you hit that random play button. I know you do. You've told me so yourself, and you just listen to it, and then you don't get filtered out with the junk you don't want to play. I see how it is. See, you watch a bunch of stuff, and it's all like, oh, this dude likes this stuff, so we're going to give him more of this stuff, even though he doesn't really like it. He's just listening to it because it's on.
Oh, I'm going to watch this video about a weird egg recipe from Salvador Dali. Why? Because it's there.
Yeah.
And now YouTube is aware. I understand completely.
Yes. Your poor viewing habits, Kane.
I'm going to fall asleep to 13 hours of Age of Empires Let's Play.
All right. But that is... For those wanting module reviews and stuff like that, there's Seth Skorkowski, there's Questing Beast. Both of those are good. I like Seth Skorkowski quite a bit.
Questing Beast, I know.
Yeah. But that's that. That really kind of covers modules as well as using pre-established lore for other games and other settings, like with the Golarion setting or for Forgotten Realms or just whatever you want to use, Eberron. It doesn't really matter, but to keep verisimilitude, you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to do those modules in such a way that the consequences are there for the actions that your players take. Now, homebrew is a bit different because you can play in generic fantasy world 105682 on a game and your players might not even notice. So it's definitely something that you're going to have to gauge your group about. Are your players wanting to engage? I've trained my players over the years that we've been playing that backstories are going to be important. Hey, don't me, Kane. I've gotten you. I'm working on you because you put something forward. You put more for Cashew than you have before for anybody else. So, I mean,
there was so much for Magpie also. There was as much for Magpie as there is for Cashew.
Are you guys familiar with, I can't think of his name, Neil something. He has a blog. I think it's called something Initiative. I forget.
Improved Initiative.
Yes, that's the one. And he calls backstories, he calls them daggers. And a backstory has to have like 4 or 5 daggers.
Oh, yeah.
That the GM can use to...
Yeah, I remember Night Theory.
I think it's good. I think that's very relevant. Because like backstories, that's another important part of verisimilitude. I have always believed, no matter what we're doing, I firmly believe if you're going to be in my world, short of Doomsday Dawn doesn't count because it's modules, like you owe me a page of backstory before you can watch if you want. Without that backstory, you don't exist, because that not only invests you, the player, in the game, but that informs me as the GM. Like, for example, we never got around to statting it up, but Kazuha's backstory in Lord of the Caliber, there was some kind of monster. Wasn't quite sure what it was going to be, but it was going to be there, and the backstory informs one of this. Same with like Francis said he came from a big family. I believe it got much bigger than he had ever intended.
Oh, so large.
Oh, Lord.
Lordy.
And each one of those is something that you can use, not necessarily when we say daggers to like literally slit the throat of the player, not necessarily, but like for good as well as ill to make the world more believable. A great example of this is most of my characters that I build, because I've realized as I've gotten older, and I'm not afraid to say this on the internet because I've gotten older, that I have issues with my family. And so most of my characters will have problems with their father. I realized that like the 6th character in the line that did so. But like the average non-edgelordy kind of character, like their parents exist, their parents love them, and probably would like to talk once in a while, especially if you're going into harm's way. Like, for example, to go back to the Rise of the Rune Lords example, because I feel that, like, even if you're new to the sport, that's like, Sandpoint, if you know Pathfinder, they're almost the same thing.
Yeah,
like
it shows up in like 3 different adventure paths.
And they shout at you in Rise of the Rune Lords. That's the only spoiler I got for anything, was Sandpoint must be important to the players. Why? Don't know. Don't want to know. But because I'm sincerely hoping at some point we go back and I can feed people to my giant death tiger. But like, say your parents are from that village, and you imagine most starting villages, your parents or your siblings or your guardian or whatever watched over you when you were a crying little baby and couldn't take care of yourself, probably still cares, right? Especially in the case of like the paladins and clerics and stuff, assuming you didn't go all like Zon-Kuthon, in which case they care the wrong way. Run.
We care so much.
I won't say they care the wrong way. I'm not a man to judge.
I'll say they care the wrong way. They're literally mutilating their babies. That's caring too much. That's caring too much.
We're gonna turn you into a human man pillow.
I have so many things to show you.
Yeah.
Praise the rack.
That is technically a reward. Is being turned into a human man pill.
Yeah, I know. I brought that up specifically for Zon-Kuthon. One of the exaltations, they chop off your arms and legs, and you live the rest of your life in exquisite ecstasy as a human.
One of these days, I'll break down and watch Hellraiser, because I feel like someone applies it very much.
Oh
like
yeah,
Hellraiser.
it's very Xenobite-y.
Oh yes.
But another example of that is I played in Rune Lords. I played an orc who was raised by a tiger because I did the Tarzan thing, right? Parents were not in the picture, and baby was abandoned and picked up by a cat with like animal instincts that chose to. It's a baby. Don't eat it. That makes sense at all. But like, that's 2 daggers. Necros's mother, Necros's father. Are they dead? Maybe. Are they not? Maybe. Who knows?
This is also a tiger.
Exactly. And that's in Adam's hands, or whoever like your GM is for your particular thing, and that makes the world more believable because, frankly, and another aspect of this, because it relates more to the people who are directly manipulating it. Speaking to the people who like don't stream or like don't like try to have an audience to the games, but like those of us who just want to, like the pretzel and beer games that want to like up the roleplay, if it directly targets a player or players, it's going to feel more real and they're going to want to play with it more, at least in my experience.
Yeah, and like to give you an example of what I mean when I say by beer and pretzel game, you could check out the podcast Crit Juice, like CRIT Juice. They're a super like beer and pretzels game. Literally, the whole premise of the game was to turn D&D 4th edition into a drinking game.
Is that why you like 4E? I get it. All makes sense.
No. I wish I had known about that when I played 4th edition, and that I had been old enough to drink when I played 4th edition.
Old enough and actually doing it are not the same thing.
Well,
so
that's true. I think the first time I was blackout drunk, I was 16.
Well done.
Back on topic.
Back on topic.
Back away from the bad things.
They play 4th edition in a similar fashion to a drinking game, and like they play maybe once a month. And I believe the verbatim quote was, "Because that's what we can handle." But like it's very laid back. Like they're just there to hang out with each other and have a good time, and like we're doing the fantasy game. Look at us, da, 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 da. Like they're just there to have a good time. And I mean, tertiarily to provide a product, a show, to produce a show for other people to listen to, and it's a very different atmosphere and it's a very different game, both the way the players interact with the game and the way that their DM runs the game for them, than compared to a show like Critical Role, which is very, very showy. It's very cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got really, really into live plays. I still am. I shouldn't say I was. Once upon a time.
Once upon a time, Cashew loved live plays.
I could maybe I'll put a little. I'll send Adam something to put in the description, a link to a couple different podcasts. But there's definitely a couple that I could recommend to someone if they're looking for a very casual gameplay, like an example of a very casual gameplay experience, or an example of a much more engaged, super roleplay heavy, intensive gameplay experience. And in some cases, even one that started out super casual and became more engaged, what's the name? Dungeons and Doritos is the name of the game. And they started out super low key. They did it because a bunch of fans asked them to do it. And then later on, it became they hired on a professional editor, and he did does a bunch of background work for it. And he also played a character, and it became this big production piece. And the reason I bring them up is because they recently, just super recently, put out a thing saying that they might be coming off hiatus.
Oh, so there you go.
Fancy.
They locked a player partway through because he was in a fatal car crash. And then later on, they went on hiatus because their DM's father was terminally ill with cancer, and obviously they quit so he could take care of his dad. But for whatever reason, either his father's passing or some other development has occurred where they're like, "Hey, we might be coming back."
So
I'm both a little morose at the prospect of that's if you're off hiatus, it means that some things have transpired, but also yay, I'm gonna get my stupid show back.
Fair enough. And something that
Silver
happens,
linings.
Silver linings. Something that can also happen is when you get. It's not necessarily something you have to worry about at your table, but if we do things on our games, the verisimilitude factor can also come up when people that view it get involved with your characters and with your world and stuff like that. I've made announcements before that if people get interested in the worlds that I'm making up or using, we can put together a document that can be on the Facebook or something like that people can have access to. And it's a goal that I have to reach the level of verisimilitude. And this is how you know you're getting really good at reading your players as well as knowing what makes them tick beyond the game. I've got them to be legitimately spooked before, legitimately surprised, which is hard with a virtual tabletop, okay? It's not super easy. But I've got them to be surprised before. That happened with Mal and Uli down when you guys first found Dodie. In the first game you guys found Dodie.
You made everyone so uncomfortable with that stupid talking box.
Yep.
Talking box probably saved my Gathlin's life.
Oh, it saved all of our lives, but also.
But also, we didn't know how to turn into a barrel. To our chagrin.
It's not exactly all there.
He's a dumb mimic.
Dumb, not necessarily, but definitely unhinged. But anyway,
it hurts.
Hey, it is what it is. That
makes you think of the death by chocolate mob from Wanderquest.
But
No, God, the good old days.
The goal that I have is to legitimately make them care enough about something in the tabletop that will make them cry, shed shed manly tears, as it were, for something that happened.
I also share that. I want to someday write something that's so sad that someone who's playing under me just like tears up.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever. No, I haven't. I've come close recently. Here's a good way to make your world believable. I haven't been editing my bi-weekly intrigue game because time is a crunch and live plays take a really, really long time to edit. They truly do. But we're basically playing Resident Evil. And you guys, I think, Buffalo or Jason, the dude is a national treasure, I swear. They're in the mansion in Resident Evil 1, more or less. And his investigator, a character that requires both its hands, right, to bomb. You have to beep, boop, boop, gets bitten. And, like, without hesitation, with no checks after the combat is resolved, and all he knows is he's been bitten, the wound itches really badly. My roommate-to-be, Tim, is playing a rogue, and this dude just puts his arm on the door and says, Myriad, take it. And he is now playing that game with one arm. The disadvantages to doing that, being a character, like he can't make bombs now. Not nearly as fast. Came as an alchemist.
Does it say you have to use bombs both hands? I don't recall.
You have to like mix them together. So I guess you could probably do it with one, but I imagine those
card tricks, bro. It's just card tricks.
Okay, fine. You can have his card tricks, but like the disadvantages are like just blatantly obvious, right? I mean, to have done that to yourself, but it makes the world more believable because that's the reaction, right? When you are bitten by the monster is not a werewolf, not an aberration, not a zombie, a combination thereof. Mm-hmm. So like T-virus lycanthropy gets in him and nope.
I think that's also like a wonderful roleplay opportunity for that character to figure out how in character they're gonna continue to make explosives with only one arm. And like there's a couple different options. One that I would suggest would have been nestled containers. So you have like a glass container inside a glass container or something like that. And when you throw them, they both break and they mix. Mm-hmm. But like, I think that presents you with an opportunity to generate verisimilitude where you have to explain why a thing still works.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Where the book might say, like, you don't need two hands for this. There's nowhere in the book it says you need two hands for this. But how are you doing it with only one? And if you can explain to me how you're doing it with only one, or you can explain to whoever's running the game for you how you're only doing it with one, that generates a sense of both investment and verisimilitude. Why? Because you had to think up something. You had to invest time and effort into this explanation, which generates investment. And now you have a legitimate explanation for why a thing happens and why it works, and that generates verisimilitude.
Absolutely.
The devil is in the details, so to speak.
That it is. And that's why I really love... I've realized also, as I've grown older, that I'm extremely CHA-based. My social anxiety has kept me from embracing that, but now we're off the rails, and we are very Barty boy, but I'm not the brightest. I realize this. I don't think I'm stupid by any, stretch of the word, but I really enjoy having players like Dragon Ninehide, Adam. You guys met him when we were in St. Louis. That dude is really smart. And so, he could answer that, from jump. He figured out how to... I don't remember exactly how he did it. He's playing a Drow noble. Some cheaty magic was involved. That's another fun discussion. But to, make a way to make, the world's first, portable heater with a cauldron and levitate and a bunch of other alchemical stuff. And it was, that creates immersion. That creates the fact that your world is real because someone can just flat out this is how it is real. Mm-hmm. And if the people aren't invested at that point, like the rest of the party, if people aren't legitimately impressed, then that's the point where you should ask yourself if you want to play this game, because that's amazing. Also, I think I've read 1,000 times that the line between you are casually playing and you are immersed and it is real and the world has the illusion of realness is the phrase. And it varies, obviously, but this might sound stupid, but, and then the harebrained idea as to how to solve a problem. I don't have an example off the top of my head, the characters I've been playing lately were like, this might sound stupid, but would be more like, okay, I'm gonna hit the dwarf wizard alchemist with power attack all the way on with my Bardiche and God's help him whack. But God, I can't think of an example of my life now. But that's where the people are believing it, because we as people, though I imagine most of us have never been, certainly not fighting goblins, but like in life or death situations, that's one imagines where like the body, the mind is going to start like rapid left and right improvising to try to solve its problems. And that makes the world more real, which I think like as a GM, we should encourage this. And when that happens, like say yes, no matter how, unless it's like like we're past MacGyver and we're full like, I don't even know, bad, can't work, no.
We're full like Dave the Barbarian. With nothing but a microphone and a squirrel, Dave fashions a microphone.
Yeah, for sure. But like if they're creative enough to make the thing, they're building the world. They have established a precedent that thing works and the universe turns in response.
Right. And so with that, you might a suggestion would be, if you're wanting verisimilitude in your game, don't be afraid to embrace verisimilitude. Don't be afraid to embrace the improvising or the stuff that goes on that you didn't count on or that you didn't think about. Don't be afraid to embrace those things. We're about 15 minutes till cutoff, so some quick things that can add verisimilitude that are not going to be crazy or out there is remembering what day it is.
Oh God, I'm so bad at that. Oh man, I've done like you. I actually have a little black book to write that down in my games now.
Remember what day it is.
June.
Remember what time it usually is. And that can be tricky when you take a week or two off or a month from a specific game and to do a different game.
I think shade is being thrown at me, but I don't.
No, I'm throwing. Yeah, I'm throwing shade at myself because I forgot what time of day they got to. What town are they in right now? Antelia. Not Atlanta.
We're in Atlanta.
In Antelia. So
that's when you don't have verisimilitude. When your players it's the Joe test. Your players make fun of your names because they sound too close to something else.
Well, I didn't choose the race of individuals that was.
No, I believe Joe did.
No, it was.
No?
The game Broken Universe takes place in the same world and universe the same world that a different game took place. The one we first played with Dawn Forge cast when we all met each other.
Oh, the Dawn Forge cast one, not the beginnings and endings of Benny a Great Hero.
Both take place in this universe. They all three take place in the same universe.
That's too many.
So
I don't think it's enough.
That happened. But remembering the day, remembering the time, and I have a little cheat sheet that I have, and I believe Matt Mercer also has one that's kind of like this, and it all it has on the top is just a sticky note with the word describe, and then underneath it has see, smell, hear, taste, feel, and aura. Kind of general overview aura you get.
Oh yeah. Like there's the things that you take for granted in day-to-day life, like the time and the date, what month it is. And those can be talking points about verisimilitude, because if those exist in your game world consistently over time, those are attachments to the real world in a sense. But there's also the importance of imagery, because you're playing a game that, for the most part, all of your visual media is squares with things drawn on top of them.
Sometimes hexes.
What the heck?
Squares is a funnier word.
Okay.
I've heard it's hip to be, so there you go.
Oh, well.
Oh, it hurts.
Squares with.
You mean it hurts so good? It just
Why,
hurts.
why is there a mimic cake in the Discord? I'm sorry to
Never
interrupt.
mind. Oh, stop.
Do I need to stop in the name of love, or is that just not going to work?
In the name of love.
You're so old, Adam.
I know.
He's only a couple years older than I am.
Fossilizing in front of my eyes.
Well, the ladies say I can rock steady. So
Alright.
there you go.
He
Anyway.
really has the
Imagery is super important because in this meeting in a tabletop game, especially if you play a paperless game, where you don't necessarily have a grid in front of you, the ability to generate imagery for your players through description is incredibly important. So, like Adam said, Mercer's cheat sheet, the sticky note that says describe, the 5 senses and aura, if it's applicable. Or if you're referring to aura as like the sort of general sensation that a place can generate, like when you're alone and you feel like you're being watched, I would describe that as aura.
Yeah, it's like a sixth sense, something
Yeah.
a little not supernatural. Not the paladin is pinging, but like
Yeah,
how do you
just
feel about it?
the place makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah,
So, like, what do you see? What do you smell? Are there noises? Is there something dripping in a far off corner? Can you hear gravel underneath your feet? Does the ground feel strange under your boots? Are you touching a wall? Like, describe the 5 senses to your players because it's important, dependent upon the buy-in of your game. I'm not telling you have to do this for every little thing, but there's imagery is super important, and the progression of time is super important. And there was another thing I started. Oh yeah, I was also going to talk about. A lot of DMs do this, where they have little cheat sheets for NPCs, like names and personalities. Well, they'll just have like a list of names and a list of personalities. Being able to generate that on the fly without taking a bunch of without having to pause and be like, his name is Jeff. Just being able
Jeff.
yeah, my name is Jeff. Just being able to pull that off a piece of paper and have it like that is also good for the overall play experience, I found. But I want to mention that verisimilitude, the generation of verisimilitude, the onus of verisimilitude is not exclusively on the DM. It's both on the players and the game master to contribute things that generate verisimilitude to the game, and to go way back to something Tommy said about backstories. It becomes infinitely easier for your DM to generate investment and verisimilitude. I feel like I'm abusing the use of the word verisimilitude now.
It's the name of the chat. You're fine. Name of the game. Versatile dudes.
To generate investment is to take things from your character's backstory, and this is common knowledge, but I'll say it anyways. To take things from your character's backstory and try and turn them into hooks, into adventure hooks, into plot pieces that you can call back to later, because if your players are invested in that character and that character's wants, which assumably they should be, they're going to give a shit about those things.
Absolutely.
And I think Tommy did an excellent job with Emmy's character in
Lord of the Gallery, Xandu?
with Xandu, because Emmy writes 6-page dissertations about her character background.
That's accurate. I had much to play with. Which is not to say Kazaha and Francis didn't have theirs coming. It's just I don't know why, but I latched onto Xandu really, really hard. I guess I enjoyed the concept of the psychic sorcerer, and getting to play with dream stuff was fun.
Yeah,
I've been thinking about if we wanted to restart Lord of the Gallery, we would do it. I've been thinking about shaving off the last 2 episodes from that series and just deleting them forever and ending it on I can't remember the name of the episode, but y'all remember the one, the end of Xandu's plot arc, basically, because Emmy gave me even after when it came out, and it's kind of a spoiler, but live plays don't get a lot of views, whatever. Xandu had notion, a thought of I am this, and it came out that he was more or less like Imagine Dream of the Faith from Final Fantasy X. More like
he was.
That's the easiest way I could think of the like emergence of a very powerful psychic sorcerer created him as a very real psychic manifestation. So everything he knew was a lie. There was 4 or 5 episodes where he got a lot of buffs for a combat, and it just protect enemy was the only thing that went through Xandu's head. And eventually it got resolved, and that's because I got a lot of stuff from Xandu, but like Emmy definitely flooded I remember sending these screenshots to Lucia because I was very proud of myself when I'm getting like text walls of like how amazing that was for them as like a player in the story. So like you're gonna, short of you doing something just, I won't say bad, it's a tabletop role-playing game, kill people within reason. But like don't do anything weird. Don't do anything too like left. You obviously know your players' lines if you don't ask. It's a simple question. But they're gonna respond in the same way like if my father got cancer right now, or if my father was abducted by hobgoblins in Marshall, Missouri right now. Okay, obviously we're going to drop everything, and now we're playing Iron Thing Invasion. Basically, is the tie-in I make there. Mm-hmm. And actually, as I add into this, a GM that I gained recently, Ross, over at Greenwich Colonies, and Quiet Boy Levi can attest to this one. He's done a really good job of making the world believable to his 5 players. 2 of us have a very different. I don't know what he's doing with Piss Kicker and Bowser. The quest to kill a Jabberwock and find the best stereotypical drunken dwarf beer, but like my druid sorcerer gestalt and Levi's Palibard and Jason, who is a national treasure, he's playing him like the quintessential slayer. The Ranger Rogue, we're all attacking the same kind of problem from 3 very different sides. Almost like if you imagine like a triangle, if the center of the triangle is this is the problem, and Mirrodin feels this is the bad, and Elu has this to investigate, and Bryn's family was killed all because of, right? Then suddenly we're all very invested in exactly the same thing. I feel like in bigger groups, that becomes even more relevant because, and that's an entirely different, again, Around the Hearth, which we've done. And we've had Around the Hearths with just too many people in our time. Which, everybody get on the Discord. Here we go. But like when you have a group of, and I legitimately had hoped in my heart of hearts that Lordly Caliber had stayed as an 8-man party, because it becomes the same thing. You are attacking the problem from 8 sides of an octagon, and it becomes more necessary because if the story is really singing to say like a 6-man party, something more reasonable to like these 3, then if this is great for them, these 3 may be very less interested. This is another reason, like a final add-on to that is in newer groups. Sometimes I haven't had to do this yet, and I've had a lot of new groups lately, but I'm not humble bragging, but I find in my experience, if someone is paying for the game, they're much more willing to world build with you, and it's not necessarily like the expectation of this will run like this or get out of my life. But if I were to start a new, great example of this, I have an in-person group on Sundays. Lucia is GMing it presently in a year and change, in the length of the campaign. When she is done, I intend to ask those guys if they would like me to like jam a game for them, and if so, I would impose party alignment. You choose alignment, all characters are within 1 step of. Alignment is of course an entirely arbitrary system of, we have argued about that so many times. 8 dudes, 9 alignments, 1 discussion, our first Around the Hearth. But you're definitely attacking the problem from the same direction. Probably if we chose LG, so NG, LG, LN, these guys will have basically the same motivations. Ergo, world feels more real because everyone's invested in contributing to it.
So having that player investment is important, and being able to work with that player investment. I had one thing I wanted to touch on with the names that Kane was had brought up, remembering names, having them readily available, which was something I didn't have this last time. But I didn't need it this last one because I had all that already set up from the last time. Though they did run into it in Fallout Fort Smith a little bit because I only had so much prep done for it. But having a cheat sheet of first names and then last names that are appropriate for your setting are good, and keeping in mind what you're having your setting inspired by. Like if you think that it's going to be Germanic, like Kelegoth is very Germanic based, all of the names are names that you would find either in Germany or in that area of the world for the NPCs, unless I've just made up the names, which is usually present for people that are not from Kelegoth. So that's a way to look at that, and that can boost immersion. And Kane was getting back to the idea of the describing what you see, hear, smell, stuff like that. When you involve the five senses, make it, and you want your players to pay attention to it, make those details important. Make them actually mean something when you say them. Because just saying you smell the moss beneath your feet with this earthy, musky smell, the beautiful colors spread before you on the stone as you walk by the stream that babbles almost like music to your ears, and the trees move and sway. Now, if you say that and you're a player, you're like, oh, he's describing the world and it's making this nice brook that we're going over. However, if you are also a player in my games, I did not describe any wind. Are those trees moving because they are actually ints? I said it was almost like music. How much like music? Was it the music of maybe a nymph? And that moss, what type of moss is it? Does that smell that moss is giving off, what color is the moss? It's not yellow, is it? And so on and so forth. If you make those things important, you don't necessarily have to have overly suspicious, promote an overly suspicious player group, but have them listen for what is there and not there when you're describing things.
I'd rather they not be overly suspicious, honestly. Yeah. I'd rather play for a bunch of players that walk into every trap I set for them than the ones that check everything with a 10-foot pole. Well, because I think it's more interesting. Because I'm not gonna punish you all the time with traps. Like sometimes the traps are just gonna be they're gonna progress you faster along the story because maybe you fall through a hole into the final chamber of the dungeon. Yep. But also, like, the fight is harder now because you activated the trap and summoned a bunch of zombies.
You activated my trap card. But, yes. And to Kane's credit, he is definitely one of my players that will... I mean, my players buy into what... They buy the package of goods that I'm selling them. Because...
I like that cheese.
I like that. Yeah. But they buy what I'm selling them because... They enjoy it, and they trust me with their characters, and I trust them to give me characters to work with that are good at, that are going to play nice with others. And so far, everybody has, especially in this little bit of an out of frying pan into fire type setup that they've kind of gotten into with Broken Universe.
I'll actually make a reference back to the Fallout game we did for October. In the last session or last two sessions of that game, I made, like, in retrospect, in 2020 hindsight, a lot of mistakes. That if I had slowed down a little and been more paranoid about my choices, I could have avoided. But looking back on the last session, I think the last session of that game in October was super dramatic, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. As like a little piece of performance, as a show, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So I feel like there's something to be said for making choices that feel correct over making choices that you know are safe.
Right. For that to work, you as the GM need to make, whoever's being the GM needs to make decisions that make sense for the characters that are in there. And players, in turn, if you're a player, make choices that make sense for your character. It made sense, spoiler alert for anybody that wants to watch Fallout Fort Smith, it made sense for Goldie, who was a secret behind-the-scenes agent for a remnant of the Enclave, to implant a very small bomb in the back of Adelaide.
Abram.
Yeah, I call him Adelaide, you call him Abrams, and we call them both. It made sense for her to do that because, one, the opportunity had presented itself. Two, she's very conniving and evil. And three, it gave her an advantage that she wanted because she knew Abrams was still a wild card, that she didn't have the kind of control over him that she had over Aaron, and she needed control. And it was just the way to do it.
And that, like, the events that led up to that were even then a little collaborative, because I asked you specific, like, do I have wounds that I can't readily reach? Yes, then, like, yeah, if she's willing to sew me up, I'll let it happen. I don't trust her, but, like, from a roleplay perspective, those wounds need to be closed, and I can't do it myself, so someone has to.
Yeah.
And I don't trust Aaron's big dumb hands to do it.
Fair enough.
And to add on to that, I picked this up from Kane. I haven't got to do it as much because, well, no, that's not true. I have. But a lot of times to sell the world, an important thing to remember is, like, okay, for example, there are 4 men in this chat right now. We could look at something. It doesn't matter what. The object is irrelevant. And all 4 of us are going to notice a different thing first, a different thing last, a different thing more, a different thing less. And I feel it helps sell the immersion in terms of the narrative of your game and making it feel real if we describe our flavor text as GMs to our players as that character probably perceives it. What I mean by this is, for example, in A Favorite Road, the very first subscriber one-shot over at IOPC that I had the pleasure of playing in, I played a Einer Yard bee who basically the entire concept of here's this meat tenderizer the size of everyone and I'm going to kill people with it. Earthbreakers are the best. But it's work, right? I'm not getting pleasure out of this combat. I'm not getting pleasure out of shocking grasping you to the ground. I am training for Ragnarok. And as we are ghoul crushing in, I can't remember the name of the town. It's been a while. But
Claywitch.
In Claywitch, yes, that's the one. When all the ghouls start attacking, the flavor text for Magnus is different than the flavor text for like Githyohun or Connor's Paladin, certainly, who's going to have an entirely different viewpoint on a horde of ghouls attacking the town than the Aberration or the Viking warrior or the elf archer guy. And this applies to basically everyone everywhere, I feel.
So there you go.
What were the names? Aiden the Paladin, Gichalava the Yedithian, Magnus the Asamar, Magnus the Magus.
Yeah. Good die, Canada.
Donald's sorcerer, and
oh god, I forgot about the Kitsune sorcerer.
Yeah, Elion, Adamel's ranger. Yeah. There was definitely. I felt like when you ask, and I always ask, and I know Tommy always asks, and Adam sometimes asks for the player, like the character sheets ahead of time. And the reason I, at least personally, ask for them is so I can read through them and sort of try to infer as much personality from the numbers as I can before I meet the characters in play for the first time. And over the course of that game, that one shot that I ran, I tried to combine what I had inferred from the numbers with the characters you were presenting to sort of infer like the personality of the character and how they would interpret this event happening to them. So yeah, like you said, Tommy, for Magnus, it was work. It was methodical. It was precise. It was muscle memory, like performing an action over and over and over again the way it should be done, like you'd done it, 1,000 times before, which was very different than Victor's approach, which was like just a tiny bit sociopathic, and some like Tchaikovsky played loudly in the background as he like fucking was shooting dudes with magic missile in the street. He was having like a little moment there, just like it's a very different experience whilst performing the same task.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And another thing that can inform that as well, it started in, and I know this because in that in-person game, because I didn't know if like I would stay in the group, the wonders of dating someone who also has a D&D group, and you're like, why not? Let's do it. I don't have enough games in my life. So I played my go-to when I need a character, my elf dragon disciple to be, for whom my channel is named. And for a long time, I played him in what I thought was 3.5. The books were actually 3.0. I know this now because it's only the 3.0 dragon disciple that got a size category increase.
What?
Yeah, the 3.5 in the Pathfinder one stays medium forever. But that's not the point. The point is in the ability scores in the older editions of Dungeons & Dragons, it would equate them to a monster with a similar score. Like if you're really smart, you would equate it to like a sphinx. The strength goes to like dragons, etc. I like it a little better on d20pfsod.com. They're third party from someone. Okay, for example, I am moving my desk.
Are we moving into builds, or are we keeping with Verisimilitude?
No, I promise it's not builds. I swear to God. I trust in Tommy.
Hurry.
I'll go fast.
Good, because we're over time. So finish up what you're saying. Hurry.
Ability scores. Yeah, no, I gotta get up at 5 in the morning. Go. Okay, ability scores. Bam. For example, I'm so glad my internet's fast. Doing a scroll. If you have a strength score of 16, carries heavy objects with one arm, a strength score of 6, difficulty pushing object of their weight, dexterity 16 to 17, able to often hit small targets at a distance. 4 to 5 is visible paralysis or physical difficulty, etc., etc. And this is another way, like Kane is saying, that numbers can inform how that character thinks, feels, etc.
That sort of brings me back to the ones that really carry over in my experience into roleplay more, because I hate playing physically weak characters. It's just it's a personal hang-up. But playing like big dumb guys, which is normally my forte, and I'm going to reference Cashew here from first edition, who had an intelligence of like 6 or 5. It mentions in the ability scores they're dull-witted or slow, and they often misuse or mispronounce words, which Cashew definitely does all the time. That like there have been a couple instances where I will just purposefully be like, I don't think that's what that means, and I'll just use the wrong word, or I'll mispronounce it terribly, or someone will call me Cashbox.
Hey, yeah, if you call it Atlanta, you can be Cashbox. So.
That's fine. I like Cashbox. I'm not upset by Cashbox. That backfired on you. Ha ha ha.
That's a 1-2 step into Cash Money.
Cash Money.
He's getting a new job here in Atlantis.
All right. So they went to Atlantic City. Oh no, I'm doing it myself. Anyway, we are over time. So,
usual.
Levi, do you have any kind of closing stuff to say? You've been quiet the whole time because you guys.
Yeah, man.
You don't usually DM,
I
but
missed you when you don't talk.
Yeah.
I partially didn't talk because my internet's been roboting me a lot. Even just like I'll lose like 5 minutes of your conversation.
oh.
So,
Final remarks then?
I honestly just keep a general level of verisimilitude. I can't word anymore. Awesome. And I think the biggest thing is just how invested you and your players are together. And honestly, nothing really. You've covered everything I would have thought of and more.
Okay. So there you have it, viewers.
I have
What-
a closing remark.
Okay. What are you
There
going to
you
say?
have it, players. Interruptions. One thing, like, and I think probably the most important thing that I can tell you, that I can tell anyone about DMing from my personal experience, and I learned this ages ago from a website called The Lazy DM. Make shit up. Like, you don't have to have pages upon pages of notes. If you want pages upon pages of notes, that's your business. You do you, boo. But make shit up. Like, if someone's just bombarding you with questions, and this is a skill developed over years of improv practice, just lie.
Yeah.
Just make it up. Like, what color? What kind of moss is it? It's yellow. It's sphagnum moss. It smells real bad. Like, are we in the north or the south? You're in the north. You're in the north now. You were in the south before on the map, but you're in the north now because you made me answer this question under duress.
Hey!
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys do that to me all the time.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Exactly. Like, if people are just bombarding you with questions and you don't want to have to reference a bunch of notes, just make shit up.
So,
I find notes like that to be
My-
very cumbersome.
my
during
only-
actual play. I really do.
Having lots of notes, it's very cumbersome.
Yeah, lots of like I've seen people do it. Like Lucia, when she GM, she has a Google Doc of every goddamn thing her world needs. And when
I've been through some of the Google Docs that Matt Mercer keeps and released. They are extensive.
yeah. My caveat to Kane's suggestion is make stuff up, which I can admit I do. I do that because it's all in my head anyway. Well, most of it's in my head. I write some stuff down. But if you make something up, all you have to do is remember it.
Yeah, if
Because
you're
you
going to
made it
make
up.
something up on the spot, maybe jot it down if it's semi-important.
Do exactly what that joke meme on all the tubes and all the books, all the tubes, dude, and all the books of faces. That meme that shows you see a warehouse in the distance. Player says, "Oh, like a guy that turns into a house." Oh, ho 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 ho. And then the GM says, it shows scratching noises and says, "Yeah, like that."
It turns into a house. Oh, that's an entirely different discussion about letting your players write your story for you. But we'll save that for a world building episode later on.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I will have a lot more to say about that because that right there is the core of my style of GMing.
That's Levi's jam right there.
Perfect. We need to do an episode about storytelling so you guys can tell me how to tell a story because I'm fucking atrocious at it.
Same.
All right. So, we'll see you guys next time. Maybe it will be our storytelling episodes to lead into the world building episode. I don't know. Anyway, you'll find out next time, and so will I. Because I'm going to make it up as I go. Thank you, viewers, for coming by. We hope you had a great time listening to us and hearing us jabber on about verisimilitude and believing the lies of the game. Have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Bye.
Juice.
Uh-huh.
Bye.
This content was made possible by the generous support of patrons and travelers like you. Thank you.